Hi, I'm Dick Seitz. Welcome to the Software Screw-Up series. This is episode 14 about hardware glitches. These are all from the index in my book on understanding software dynamics. So there's a number of low probability, but not at all zero probability events in the real world, like a drop coin that lands on its edge, or a roulette wheel that favors the ball landing in one particular section of the wheel. Network packets that have a bad bit, but a good hardware checksum. Hard drives that seek and get to the wrong track and therefore read the wrong block, or computer instructions that give the wrong answer. Because the real world is analog, not digital. And this fact occasionally rears its ugly head for those of us who are used to thinking that everything is all zeros and ones and that there's nothing gray. So a drop coin landing on its edge, a paper from 1993 put the odds of that happening for an American nickel about 1 out of 6,000 coin drops. Other coins with rounded edges, it's a little less frequent than that. There's a wonderful article by Kit Shell about Nico Tosa turning tens of thousands of pounds into hundreds of thousands of pounds by carefully betting on the part of a particular roulette wheel that favors the ball landing a little more often in one section. Network packets with a 32-bit hardware checksum at the end of each packet. The odds of an undetected error are about 1 over 2 to the 32nd. If you're transmitting at 100 gigabits per second flat out, you could get an error as often as once every 10 minutes. If you have a hard drive that seeks, about every 10 million seeks, you end up on the wrong track. And that's about once a day if you're seeking all the time at 100 seeks per second. But if you have 100,000 disks, it happens once a second somewhere in your fleet. Computer instructions giving the wrong answer. There's a few recent papers, one of them on Hershey, on the order of a few mercurial cores every several thousand machines in a data center. Mercurial. There's a couple of examples I came across when I was working at Google of rare CPU behavior that occasionally inside a redundant file system, the original Google file system, GFS, an XOR instruction to initialize a checksum to 0 gave a non-zero result. And then all of the checksum bits that were added to that gave, at the end, a wrong checksum, which was written out. And then only when you read those disk blocks, sometimes months later, did you find out that the checksum apparently was wrong, and therefore you couldn't trust the data. And sometimes data was lost because of that. Another example was an atomic locking instruction that was supposed to also do a memory barrier, but on rare occasions, it would fail to do the memory barrier, and 2 threads would end up getting the lock. What happened in both of those cases is a specific stepping of a CPU core. Those chips had to be replaced by the manufacturer with a more recent stepping that fixed the hardware bugs. This seems to be getting worse as chips get closer and closer to the line of squeezing performance and running up the clock rates until you just barely have bits getting to the right places at the right time, and sometimes they don't. So things like additional software consistency checks can help. Google added checksums per disk block as they were written and also compared to see when they were read later. Sometimes it's useful if you have suspect locking issues to redundantly, near the end of a critical section, compare and make sure that your thread is the one that's supposed to be holding the lock instead of some other thread. And if there are inconsistencies, try to find them early, do simple fix-ups, or abort and retry when you detect inconsistencies. And in all cases, removing "that can't happen" from your vocabulary makes us a little more humble and a little more realistic. Thank you. Thanks for watching the Software Screw-Up series. Take care.